At the beginning, we are shown a fitness club that seems to be located in the ordinary world of people, but this world is controlled by supernatural beings. The voiceover says that in this world the strong are revered and the strongest survive here. The weak have nothing to do here because they are doomed. Next, we are shown the main character named Ye Bai, who at the moment looks the weakest and is being bullied. We see how our loser, with his head down, listens to the words of his bully. The orange-striped one says that the hunter does whatever he wants, and this distinguishes warriors from people. Again, a voiceover pops up saying that hunters are warriors with extraordinary abilities who oppress ordinary people in order to seem cool. A guy with a red hair, thinking that he is the strongest, considers himself unkillable and tells eBay that death will suit him, ordering his chained dogs to finish him off. Our brown-haired man, lying on the floor and covering his head, suffers blows from the bad guys who kick him with their feet. This weakling looks helpless. It can be seen how the bully, turning his back to Ye Bai, is trying to anger him by saying that he will go and play pranks with his sister, and after this night she will be devoted only to him. The main character is at a loss as to why he constantly gets all this bullying. He thinks what can be done about it. A guy in a white shirt, looking as if he had been run over by a steamroller, got angry from these words and already thinks that he will die from his injuries. He shows a thirst for revenge, but judging by his physique, he only needs to play Fortnite. Ye Bai says in a voiceover that he just wants a quiet life. He is tired of hunters constantly oppressing ordinary people. The hero in the blue tie is thrown out of the building he was in with a good kick in the stomach and told not to come back here again. This weakling realized that if he let others control his destiny, everything would end very badly for him, so he realized that he needed to take care of himself. He says that he is not going to give up under any circumstances and believes that if he had any superpowers, he would be able to resist his offenders. Later, meanwhile, Ye Bai enters some kind of system called training turns into a god, and apparently hope is instilled in him. Chinese ChatGPT invited Ye Bai to help him achieve high results through effective training, warning him about their complexity, and he agreed. This student realized that only training could make him stronger and began to work on himself, trying to become better than he was before. The system notifies about the update because Ye Bai's abilities have been strengthened and he has reached the level of a training master. The person whose hand he grabbed is very surprised by his strength. Ye Bai, having become stronger than his offender, strikes back with full confidence, putting this idiot to bed, thereby showing who is in charge. Returning to the gym, he thinks that he is not like everyone else and will be able to lift the heaviest barbell, despite the fact that he has only recently started his training, causing laughter from people in the gym. Then he decides to become the strongest, and we see how he went for a run, accelerating so fast that it almost blew off the girl's skirt behind him. In the next frame, we see how a new era has begun. Pumped up, Ye Bai saves some girl from evil bandits by fighting them off. Watching our now strong man, we notice that he began to smash all the enemies in his path. After all, the training is bearing fruit. We watch how he gets better and better step by step. Having learned new techniques, he effectively uses them in his battles, scattering the bandits in different directions. If he continues to do his training, he will definitely improve his skills, becoming the god of training, and then he will no longer be a loser. The next chapter begins with us being shown a decorated room in which people have gathered and are celebrating someone's birthday. Meanwhile, one of the people asks for the attention of those present. Everyone leaves their work, turning around in bewilderment what is there, and everyone becomes interested. The same person introduces everyone to the hero of the occasion, and this turns out to be Princess Mu Yubin. Everyone present looks at her in amazement. People continue to admire her, considering her the most beautiful girl in the group. Guys call her a hot girl, and girls would fall in love if they were men. The princess thanks everyone present at the party dedicated to her birthday and wishes everyone to have fun with a glass of wine. In the next frame, you can see the building in which these events take place, and you can hear the screams of people saying different wishes to Mu Yubin and wanting to get really drunk. But in the morning, they will of course regret it. We return to our main character, who is late for this party due to a delay at work. In his hands, you can see a gift for the birthday girl. Having run to the party, he heard the dialogue of the guests about how cool the party was. He realized that something was wrong, and began to guess that he had arrived too late. Approaching one of the guests with a surprised face, Ye Bai asked if the party was over. He was told that everyone had left long ago and the princess left half an hour ago. The late fool simply did not believe her words, and at this time, behind his back, you can see 3 bad guys who approach him discussing the appearance of the princess. One of the watchdogs turns to the main bandit Jang K with a question whether he wants to hit on Mu Yubin. This idiot liked the proposal and thought about it. Ye Bai called Jang Ke with a surprised voice, asking what they wanted to do with the princess, and the orange-haired and blue-haired turned to him. The guy with the gold chain was very surprised by the presence of the main character, as well as how he dared to come to this party. Yebai cannot find the words to answer. The bully, remembering how he took lunches from classmates in elementary school, noticed the cake from this loser and immediately took it away, asking who would eat it. Junka says that dogs like Yebai disgust him, and Yebai is very unhappy that his cake is now lying on the floor because no one will eat it now.
Our brown-haired man begins to get angry after he saw what happened to his cake, and baring his teeth, trying to seem menacing, he says that he should not offend people.
The bully, on the contrary, began to offend him more, talking about how strong he is and in the future he will only become better. Standing taller than Princess Mu Yubin, the victim believes that he is wrong. The idiot didn't like this and punched the poor guy in the stomach with all his might, causing him to fly back and fall, starting to cough up blood. Events from Yebai's memories are repeated where they stand on all fours and listen to the bandit's speech about how cool he is and better than everyone around. He thinks that this bully has already gone too far, trying to get up from the floor, and Zhang Ke is again trying to anger him by talking about him and his sister and what he is going to do to her tonight. Of course, the brown-haired man didn't like this. He abruptly stood up from the floor and, insulting Zhang Ke, pushed him hard, causing him to fall into complete shock. He knocks the bandit down and starts hitting him hard in the face, sitting on top. Yebai thinks that he is doing crap hiding behind his abilities. The man in the orange shirt is trying to defend himself. The main character promises to kill this idiot while continuing to pound him from above and looks very angry, because anger from him has accumulated in him. Zhang Ke, being stronger than the schoolboy, pushes him away with his foot, saying that he shouldn't have behaved like that. The schoolboy flew far away and fell to the floor. Yebai is trying to get to his feet on his own while that idiot is being helped by his henchman. Zhang Ke is still in shock that a schoolboy was able to attack him. The guy with the scar is so confident in himself that he considers himself indestructible and orders his dogs to beat up the poor schoolboy. The brown-haired man endures the strong blows of these freaks, covering his head with his hands and lying there because he can't do anything to these two bastards. Junka says that he will go to his sister's place to play pranks this evening, after which she will be devoted only to him while Yebai is beaten. Tough Guy ordered his chain dogs to leave the area, leaving the poor schoolboy lying on the ground with numerous injuries. Yebai has no choice but to continue to lie down and watch these departing guys, because at the moment he is weaker than them. Everything is just like in his memories. Yebai lies suffering from the pain they caused him and does not get up thinking about how to take revenge on them. He still promised not to give up and began to think that if he had the ability, he could fight back against these bullies. Everything is just like in the memories. Yebai begins to see the system that he had in his memories, and the system in turn begins to bind to the user. The system turns to Yebai with the words, whether he would like to become stronger and faster. The main character thought about the offer, but of course he could not refuse. He gave his consent to this force, saying that he wanted to become a better person, and he would finally have the opportunity to protect his family and fight back against those scum. The Chinese GPT chat made him understand that everything was clear and told him to open his eyes while Yebai was flying into some blue pit. The loser opened his eyes and the divine training system was launched, after which he will become better and better every day by training hard and working on himself. The second chapter begins with Yebai noticing how his wounds were somehow miraculously healed after interacting with the Chinese GPT chat. At first he thought that it was all an illusion, but later it dawned on him that it was all real. He looked very surprised after this incident. The system decided to remind him that it was still not an illusion and gave him its full name, namely the God of the Exercise System, and a beginner's trial experience was opened for the student. One of the bandits notices how Yebai got to his feet and tells the leader about this, judging by them, especially their leader Zhang Ke. They want to beat him again and show who is the boss of the rocking chair. The orange-haired man, raising his fist towards the brown-haired man, began to accelerate strongly towards him, intending to deliver an accurate, powerful blow, sending this loser to sleep. In his opinion, this blow will be so strong that he will end Yebai once and for all simply by killing him, but our protagonist is a tough nut to crack. The tough guy's fist is already right in front of the protagonist's face, but he just doesn't care about it, as if he knows what he's doing and what's going to happen. From this moment on, the role of the tough guy passes to Yebai, because he was able to catch Zhang Ke's fist, thereby greatly surprising the bandit as he was confident in his abilities. He continues to hold the bad guy's fist and hears a notification from the system saying that the owner has reached the level of Exercise Master. Zhang Ke is very surprised at the level of the protagonist. The system notifies that Zhang Ke has strength equivalent to the rank of a green hornet. At the same moment, he begins to feel pain from Yebai's compressions and asks to let him go, surprised at how hard it is for him now. Apparently, the CFS said in the morning did not give him enough strength. The Chinese ChatGPT notifies about the difference in combat effectiveness between them by 175.8 times. Zhang Ke is not dangerous for the owner. Ye Bai understood why the bully is so slow for him. This already strong schoolboy, noticing that he was powerless without showing any emotions, powerfully squeezed the hand of his offender, causing him to experience severe pain. The guard dogs of this leader are very surprised at how their boss was beaten by what they thought was a weak schoolboy, and are very unhappy about this, calling the schoolboy trash. Ye Bai, straightening his shirt, lets the bad guys know that they won't be able to destroy him so easily, while the bandit holds on to his sore arm. With an angry look, our main character warned everyone of his intentions to settle this issue as quickly as possible, but it is clear what he is going to do. He approaches the leader, and he doesn't understand what he's going to do, but after a couple of seconds he starts hitting this idiot right in the face, which he's not happy about. In the next frame, we are shown this beaten loser who called the main character an asshole, but of course it was he who will regret these words. Ye Bai, going back to this fool, makes him regret these words by hitting him on the head with all his might and ordering him to shut up, thereby showing who is in charge. The system says that this is reminiscent of how Zhang Ke entered the gaze of a dying life, and the guy in the blue tie rejoices at his new strength. The henchmen of this leader begin to pull him away from the main character, worrying about him, and Ye Bai orders them to get him out of sight as soon as possible, turning his back to them. The brown-haired man reminds them that he is no longer the weak Ye Bai they remember. He is the Ye Bai who can easily kick each of their ass. In the next scene, we see our strong man running home to his sister to tell him how strong he has become. He is very happy because he is now able to protect himself and his family. Events move to the house of Ye Bai and his sister Xiaoling, where they sit on the sofa and talk. The sister says that there is no meat for lunch and asks her brother a question about debts. He encourages her by saying that there is no need to worry because he works and will definitely pay everything, and his sister is very proud of her brother. We see a scene in which collectors came to Xiaoling and demanded money. Out of fear, she dropped her teddy bear and said that she had no money. She, apparently trying to intimidate the collectors, tells them that she will call someone if they come here again, because she herself cannot do anything to them. They are not happy that she has no money, and looking at her with their crazy looks, they say that she can pay with her body. Of course, the girl didn't like this, because she is not an actress in an adult movie, and while they are trying to undress her, she screams at the top of her voice, calling someone for help. Just in time, her brother arrived and called these freaks, thereby slightly frightening them. They slowly turned to him, leaving their sister. Ye Bai asked them a specific question about what they wanted to do with his sister, looking at them very angry. After his question, he begins to kick the butts of these bad guys, and does it so well that they fly away from him in different directions. Xiaoling, slightly calmed down, watches how her strong brother punishes the bad guys who pestered her a minute ago. After Ye Bai dealt with them, she happily rushes into his arms and thanks him for saving her, and her brother promises not to let anyone bully her in the future. Meanwhile, the collectors come to their senses, and one of them tells Ye Bai not to be arrogant, and he in turn looks away at him outrageously. These poor fellows lying on the floor are trying to talk to the main character. One says that their boss is a hunter, and the other that he offended him and appointed him to be as prolific as Ye Bai. The strong man takes one of these idiots by the scruff of the neck and, shouting in his frightened face, says that he just beat the hunter. The idiot, in turn, simply laughs in the face of our strong man, looking at him with his strange gaze, and the main character is perplexed by the fact that he is laughing. His boss calls the red-haired man on the phone, and he says that he needs to answer, showing the screen of his phone to Ye Bai and covering one eye. Our tough guy simply takes the phone from him by force and without emotion, from which he, surprised, continues to lie on the ground because he is unable to do anything to him. Ye Bai answers the call and realizes that it is Mount Fushun. With surprise, he asks what is happening, but does not wait for an answer from the other side. The third chapter begins, and we are already shown the clubhouse in which sits the very boss of Mount Fushun, who decided to take a break from his gangster affairs. The main character enters this club and loudly bursts into the boss's room, letting him know that he has come for his skinny ass. The boss looks very calm and, continuing to hug the two girls, tells Ye Bai that he didn't expect to see him here, and that he should return his money to him by stopping beating his guys. In Ye Bai's opinion, he did the right thing, since the idiots came to his home for moneylenders and tried to do something to his own sister. Mount Fushun considers the strongman to be too complacent and tries to come to an agreement by saying that if Ye Bai helps him, he will pay off all his debts, while the girls continue to sit silently like NPCs. The brown-haired man is simply shocked by his impudence to ask to do something for him, because this freak is constantly mocking his sister. The boss tries to lure Yabai with money, showing huge bundles and saying that this money will help him well in his future life with his sister. But this Sigma is not for sale. He simply knocked the suitcase with money out of the hands of the guy in the suit with one clear blow of his foot, causing the money to scatter in different directions. Afterwards, he tells the boss that he can help him only once, but he is not going to take his money, and if the boss's people pursue him again, he will already beat him. The boss advises him to finish his business, apparently hoping that he can resist the strength of our main character, being on his nerves and sipping a drink from a glass. Fukun-shan talks about the bar street, saying that there is some kind of medicine created by a black market dealer named Parquet Laurent, and that he frequents this street. Yabai arrived at this place, and looking at the appearance of other people, he understands that he should have changed clothes in order to blend in with the crowd and not arouse suspicion. He found the same man named Laurent, comparing him with the photograph provided to him by Fuchunshai, and realized that it was time for him to act. The system diagnosed one of Laurent's thugs, assessing his strength and abilities at the 3rd level of the green bee. Yabai, grinning, tells the green bee to look at him. Apparently he wants to kick his ass with his own strength, and the Chinese chat GPT responded by saying that he had experienced temporary improvement. The system says that the owner needs to be discouraged, and he should train in order to become better, and judging by the boy's emotions, he didn't like it. He realized that the strength he had acquired was temporary, and in order to become stronger than his enemies, he would have to engage in difficult training. Meanwhile, we see 2 bad guys who are talking about something of their own. One of them notices Yabai and looks at him questioningly. Apparently, he seemed suspicious to him. They ask the schoolboy a question about what he forgot here and what he is looking for, and he in turn was scared because they noticed him. He tries to justify himself by saying that he doesn't know the rules, and that he was the first to come here. Because of his strange behavior, they continue to suspect him of something. His excuses did not satisfy the bad guys. They grab him and try to take him somewhere, most likely to put an end to him by solving all the problems. Yabai is not happy with what they are trying to do to him, and calling them gay guys tells them not to harass people because it is illegal. Fortunately for him, at that moment a black car with flashing lights drives up to them, and from it they shout to stop. The bad guys look at the car in surprise. 2 large, serious men in black suits, who are apparently someone's bodyguards, get out of the car. They look at the bad guys, instilling fear in them. The bodyguards standing in front of them say that they need Yabai, and the bad guys are at a loss as to why they should give him up, because he offended their poor boss. 127-1. The bouncers let Brown go, and he looks into the car and is surprised to see that Princess Yubing herself is sitting in it, and it was she who found it useful. Yabai, looking at the princess with his surprised gaze, tells her that he did not expect to meet her on this street and is already thinking about what will happen next. She tells him that she didn't expect to see him here as a private guest of the bar street, and he says that this is not what she thought. It turned out that the princess was just joking and laughing at him. She said that the bar street is full of fish, dragons, and has many different abilities. Yubing tells him not to meddle in this place anymore, because then she may not be around. He understood everything and thanked her for his salvation. After this dialogue, Yubing's car began to drive away, and the 2 ended their conversation with words about seeing each other at school. Yabai remained in place, waving his hand after him. In the next frame, we see him with thoughts about how he almost died, and having contacted the Chinese chat, GPT asks if he is able to make him stronger, because he became afraid for himself. A scene from Yabai's memories is visible, where the system warns him about the difficulty of training and asks if he is ready. Our hero, of course, gives his consent. The next chapter begins with the already familiar fitness room that Yabai spoke about in his memoirs. The main character enters this very hall with a hearty, high-calorie lunch, which makes the local jocks laugh at his absurdity. Everyone starts discussing him and continues to laugh. The experts in the room believe that he needs low-carbon food, and this will only make him fat. Again, we see the scene from the flashback, where the self-confident Yabai approaches the heaviest barbell, which makes everyone in the room surprised, but they underestimate his strength. Local jocks are already assuming that this guy will not be able to lift the barbell and will simply break down like all self-confident beginners about to call an ambulance. Yabai himself is unsure of his abilities and asks the system if he can lift it, and the system asks it to believe in it and finally lift this pile of iron. The system explains that high-carbon foods are harmful for ordinary fitness enthusiasts, but it can convert them into vital energy. In the next frame, we see how Yabai still trusted the system, and asking for help from it, lifted this pile of iron above his head, showing everyone his capabilities. Yabai, after lifting the barbell, felt an increase in his strength, and continuing to hold it, it only becomes easier for him, and this makes him very happy. The experts in the room are in deep shock from his strength. I don't understand how a newcomer could do this, given that his departure posture was incorrect. Meanwhile, someone noticing Yebei begins to call him. He heard a voice already familiar to him, thought about it, and realized that it was the voice of Yu Bing. Turning around, he saw Mu Yu Bing sitting in the splits. He was very surprised by this meeting, and judging by his face, he really liked the princess's shape. She says that she is a frequent visitor to this hall, and why did he come here while the main character continues to admire the princess? He replied that he felt like a weakling, and just decided to pump up in order to be in shape, and she praised him, which made him look very happy. A girl from the audience heard their dialogue, and it seemed strange to her that Yubin was communicating with the boy like that, because she usually drives away the jocks who try to start a conversation. She comes up to ask if this guy is her friend, and she replies with an embarrassed face that they are ordinary classmates. She meets Yabai, saying that her name is Yuan Weiling, and she is the boss of this rocking chair. And this pervert told her his name, just staring at her breasts. Apparently this is the only thing that attracted him to her. Yuan Weiling praises him for such strong hands, asking how long he has been practicing. He replies that he started recently. He really liked this baklava. The orange-haired woman begins to pester the brown-haired man, touching his abs and saying that his body fat level is less than 15%, and he becomes embarrassed. Yubing looks unhappy with Yuan Weiling's advances towards her classmate, and the orange-haired girl continues to touch Yebai's abs, which makes him feel awkward. This girl lets them know that she really liked Yebai's muscles, after which Yubing also begins to touch him, saying that she was very surprised by this. Yebai blushed all over. The system warns that the owner may experience an energy leak, which is why the jock decides to leave the girls and continue his training. The girls, having listened to him, finally decide to leave him alone, saying that they will not interfere and leaving him alone with himself, for which Yabai is grateful to them. He grabs a heavy barbell with the thoughts that now is not the time to indulge in beauty, and he needs to become stronger. He also hopes to tell Yubing what he wants in the future. While doing a biceps approach, he receives a notification from the system that says his strength has increased to the 2nd stage, which made Yabai surprised. The jock is very surprised that this is training for beginners, and the system opens him a table in which all stages are listed in ascending order. He remembers that Laurent's thugs have the 3rd level of the Green Hornet. The system tells him it is advisable to reach beginner level 9, and then challenge him. The main character does not have much time, and therefore he needs to train, because the bastard in Fuchinshan gave him only 7 days to prepare. It can be seen that Yabai has already raised the 4th beginner level, and he has learned to run very fast, but he runs along a busy street, which causes dissatisfaction among passers-by by disturbing them. Eating everything in a row, apparently trying to gain muscle mass, he rose to the 6th beginner level. He eats with great appetite. The main thing for him is not to overdo it with food, because in this case, he will become the final boss of the KFS. He does stretching with the princess, from which he reaches the 7th beginner level. Stretching is still difficult for him, but the girl has no problems. The 5th chapter begins with Yabai deciding to return to the street of bars, but before that he is going to change clothes to blend in with the crowd. Arriving at a clothing store, he notices that there is a sale going on right now, and this is his chance to get good clothes at a good discount. We see the main character in new clothes and how he returned to the street of bars. Now he will definitely blend in with the crowd, and he is happy about it. Entering one of the bars, he sits down at the counter with an important look and orders a cocktail from the bartender, calling her a beauty. In this bar, meanwhile, a drunk Laurent finds himself in an embrace with 2 drunk girls who are talking about their own things and going somewhere. In the background, Yabai is looking at him. Looking at Laurent, he notices him with 2 girls and 2 bodyguards, realizing that right now it's impossible to rob him and he must wait for a certain moment. The system mentions additional problems and says that if Yabai achieves this goal, he will receive additional level rewards. The boy wondered if he could get additional rewards for his stubbornness while drinking his cocktail with a serious look. The guy says that all he needs is to quickly improve his strength and start fighting this, puts his glass on the counter and is about to follow Laurent. He came for him to the hotel where he was staying. In the hotel corridor, one could hear screams of Laurent having fun with the girls in the room. At first, Yabai pretends that he is an ordinary passerby by looking at his phone, but these thugs immediately recognized him because they had met before. The red-haired thug, angry, shouts after him to stop, and the schoolboy turns around and pretends to be scared of him. He begins to run away from them with a smile on his face, as if he knows what he is doing, and the bodyguards understand that it was not in vain that they suspected him last time and are trying to keep up with him. Suddenly, the schoolboy stops and hits one yellow-haired guy with his hand, causing him to fly far away from him. He was surprised because he didn't expect to see such force. Then he trips the second one, causing him to turn upside down, and is also very surprised by this level of force. The main character, after beating the thugs, begins to adjust his jacket and says that they are weak for the 3rd level of the Green Bee. At this time, the guards are unconscious. After he showed the 2 bouncers who's boss, Yabai begins to go to Laurent's room, who, judging by the screams, is still having fun there. The main character, with a powerful blow of his foot, without showing any emotion, breaks down the door of Laurent's room and is about to enter in order to do what he must. The bespectacled man and the girls are shocked at how anyone could get here at all, because his 2 strong bodyguards were standing at his room. The main character pretends that he is very sorry, while the yellow-haired guy asks who this strong man is and what he needs from him. Without much ceremony, he grabbed him by the leg and dragged him out of bed, saying that he had dealt with his bodyguards and that he would kill him if he did not give what he needed. This womanizer, frightened that they might actually kill him, gives up and says that he will pay and is ready to do anything as long as they don't touch him. Yabai was very pleased with the suitcase with valuables that the shirtless guy brought to him, and the fact that everything went so easily and without any problems. Meanwhile, 2 idiots in the corridor woke up and are already rushing to help their boss, but it's too late since their boss has already been robbed. In the next frame, you can see the main character who escaped from the hotel with a suitcase simply by happily jumping into the panoramic window after a successfully completed task. He notices, having opened the suitcase, he notices the code name Fuchunshan and turns to the system with the question of what it is, because he himself did not know. Next, we see a close-up of an open suitcase, and the Chinese chat GPT gave its answer, saying that this is an artificially developed power amplifier. The main character took this blue capsule in his hand and realizes that these are illegal drugs and that Mount Fushun is really dark. Suddenly, the system begins to interact with this capsule. Some sparks can be seen emanating from it. What he saw greatly surprises Ye Bai. The system used the codename M to increase the level of its owner, raising the level to a beginner Juden, which cannot but please the main character. She also provided a bonus to the attack conversion skill, showing a skill card and advising the owner to make good efforts for his personal improvement. Yabai does not yet know what the use of this card is. It was explained to him that skill cards allow him to use a variety of one-time skills, and attack conversion converts attacks into energy to level up. After increasing his level, all these interactions with the Chinese chat GPT, Yabai closes the suitcase and gets ready to go somewhere with it. Holding the closed suitcase in his hands, he mysteriously went to Mount Fushun, hoping that this freak would continue his work as promised. The 6th chapter begins with the fact that we are again shown the Fuli Club in which Fuchunshan sits. Apparently our main character is heading there. After Yabai entered the building with a suitcase, he was escorted by guards to the boss's room. After reaching the room, they gave him permission to enter. Entering Gore Fushun's room, he let him know that he had done what he asked him to do by handing over the suitcase to one of the bodyguards for inspection. The inspector, having opened the suitcase, begins to inspect the goods, telling the boss that Yabai did everything right. This womanizer looks very pleased, hugging his new girlfriend, but his look is very cunning. The boss, lighting a cigar and crossing his arms, begins to praise the schoolboy's abilities and promised him to provide him with money and women in the future. But our Giga Chad made it clear to the old womanizer that all this does not interest him. He only wants this rich man to keep his promise made in the past and leave Yabai and his sister alone. This freak, having pulled a cigar out of his mouth, begins to mention his sister in the wake of the leaving boy. By clenching the protagonist's fist, you can understand that he is ready to kill this idiot. At this moment, the boss's thugs enter the room holding Yabai's sister, in order to show that everything is very serious. It is very painful for the schoolboy to hear his sister's screams. He looks at Fuchunshan very angry, telling this idiot that he will under no circumstances let him go after what he did to his sister. The boss, feeling his impunity, continues to look the boy in the face, saying that it is better for his sister to stay with him as a good companion. These fools completely pissed off the strongman, and he hit one of the bodyguards in the face, which he was not happy about, and released Xiaoling. Taking advantage of the moment, the brother grabs his sister by the hand and together they try to escape from this damned place as quickly as possible. They continue to hold hands and run away while the evil guards are trying to catch up with them, shouting after them to stop, apparently thinking that they would listen to them. In the corridor, 2 more guards block their way, from which it would seem that they are falling into a trap, because there is nowhere to run, but our main character has his abilities. Yabai easily copes with these 2 thugs, throwing them in different directions and, holding his sister in his hands, continues to run towards the exit. We see how the bodyguards are lying on the floor unconscious, while the brother and sister are already at the exit, about to leave this building. They run out of the building and stop right next to the statues in the courtyard of this club, and apparently Yabai has a wonderful plan. With a lot of effort, he begins to push these statues, apparently wanting to block the path of the bad guys who want to grab him and his sister. We see how he managed to drop them, causing them to break right in front of the guards, forcing them to stop, everything as he planned. Thanks to this, they bought themselves time to run even further. The guards had no choice but to look after them in bewilderment. It is already clear that they were able to break away, and the bouncers report this to the boss, but he is completely calm, thinking that Yabai himself will soon return his sister to him. We are shown the house of the protagonist and his sister, to which apparently they returned after escaping from those thugs. Entering the house, the brother sees that his sister is not feeling very well and decides to ask what is wrong with her. She is thinking about how to tell him about it. She, no longer able to stand on her feet, sat down on the floor and said that she felt very bad, which made her brother very scared for her. He puts his hand on her shoulder and, trying to show concern, asks what exactly is happening to her. She, barely conscious, responds to him. Barely holding back tears, she says that they didn't like her figure. Why did these bandits give some kind of injection to develop her body? After some time, some areas of Xiaoling's body begin to increase in size, becoming abnormally large, which makes her feel very uncomfortable. Yabai himself, barely holding back tears, calls Mount Fushan a very evil person. And his sister made it known that a second injection of a yang-destroying agent is needed, otherwise she will continue to develop. This process will continue until she turns into a female pig. The brother, recognizing this, screams at the top of his voice in sadness. From his rage, Yabai hits the floor with force, causing large cracks to form there. He does not understand why these animals did this to her sister. Taking his sister, whose body and arms continued to grow, he told her to be patient a little longer, promising to take her to the hospital now. At the beginning of the next chapter, we are shown the hospital building where Yabai came with his sick sister Xiaoling, and you can hear cries of help from the main character. Events are transferred to the hospital, where the brother and sister came straight to the doctor in their arms asking for help. The doctor says to put his sister down, intending to check her. While the man in the white robe is checking on Xiaoling's lying position, the worried brother behind him, watching, inquires about her condition, greatly worried about her. The man in the tie gave his answer with a smart look, saying that his sister's body is developing rapidly and a special blocker is needed to save her. Yabai asks to give her a blocker. The doctor made it clear that this potion is strictly controlled, and ordinary people can end up on the black market if they want to buy it. The schoolboy thinks that he will have to return to Fujinshan, and the doctor said that there is a place that specializes in potions of strength, and he can try to go there. The doctor himself will not help because he has a mewing on the schedule. Events move to the city of Shenmue, and we are shown the research headquarters of the hunters, to which Yabai must bring his sister for treatment. But unfortunately, they will be stopped by two guards of this place saying that they cannot come here since they were not invited. Yabai, continuing to hold his sister, begs the guards to let them in and says that his sister was given a power amplifier. He needs a special doctor inside to heal her. But the strict caretakers are not going to make an exception for anyone, and I advise them to go to the hospital because they do not have permission to enter this building. Yabai, realizing that it is useless to negotiate, simply rams two guards and goes to the entrance of the building. The guys in black suits are simply shocked by his impudence. These two are not going to easily tolerate Yabai's impudence, and, starting to burn with flames of different colors, they tell Yabai that he ran into them in vain. Suddenly, Miss Mu, who knows the main character well, comes out of this building. She asks him to order the guards to stop and not kick Yabai's ass. Two guys, taking off their caps and making a low bow to her, show with all their appearance that they obey her, realizing that they are doing wrong. The princess approaches the brother and sister asking what they are doing here. Yabai, surprised by Yu Bing's presence, says that his sister was given a power amplifier and they need help. She looks at Xiaoling saying that animals give such injections to ordinary people. Yabai asks if they can help his sister. The kind beauty makes it clear with all her appearance that she is ready to let them in and help by telling the main character to follow her. These words cannot but please Yabai. Entering the building and approaching the elevator, the princess calls her stepfather, explaining the situation, saying that her classmate's sister needs urgent help. The brown-haired man wondered why these people here respect Mu Yubing so much, realizing that her family is rich, but having money does not win their respect. Campaign enters the elevator, and while the princess chooses the 99th floor, he wonders what kind of person is behind Yubing. Having risen to their floor, they are met by their adoptive father, Yu Bing. She asks him to help, and he in turn tells everyone to quickly follow him. The nurse prepared a gurney for Xiaoling. Yabai noticed someone familiar in the doctor, while the doctor was telling him to put the patient down. Having put his sister on the gurney, he notices that she has only become bigger and tries to calm her down by saying that everything will be fine. At this moment, the sister screams in pain. The sister was taken to the ward, leaving the main character with the princess outside to wait for the end of the operation, saying that it would be better this way. The schoolboy tells her that the doctor seems very familiar to him and asks the princess to tell him everything she knows about him because she is his adopted daughter. It turned out his name is Charles. He is the chief scientist of the Shenmucheng Hunter Alliance. The main character understands that he is the one who rewrote the entire history of mankind. They begin to tell us a story about the past, how 300 years ago a huge mysterious stone fell, and after that something began. You can see a bunch of powerful creatures with red eyes, among which you can see Ye Bai and Miss Mu. They explain to us about the radiation that allows you to turn animals into monsters. There is a war in which capable people form an army group of hunters, with the help of which they destroy monsters, forcing ordinary people to fight, suffering losses. We see a city of people, which they built with huge walls as a last resort against the monsters, just like in the anime Attack on Titan. We are shown Charles, who turned out to be the leading scientist at the time, constantly making breakthroughs in various studies of hunters and monsters. He helped people who were in very difficult times with the help of the results of his research, and finally the situation began to change for the better. We are again shown the main character with the princess, and we can see how shocked he is that she is Charles's daughter. He learned from her that he adopted her after the death of her parents. Finally, they waited for the genius in the green robe. He opened the door of the chamber for them, coming out to them with a serious face and news about his sister. Yabai immediately excitedly begins to wonder how she is. Sweat does not stop flowing from his face because he is very worried about his sister. We learn that the condition is critical, and treatment requires a blocker, which is a controlled drug and is available only to hunters. Yabai demands to make an exception for him, because his sister's life is very dear to him. The doctor tells him not to worry, about to say something important. The bespectacled boy made Yabai very happy by saying that he would make an exception, since they were Yu Bing's friends. But after that, they would have to confirm the identity of the hunter. Yabai is a little perplexed as he understands what the doctor means. In other words, he will have to become a hunter for this. The next chapter apparently begins with Yebai's memories from childhood, how the policeman says that he cannot do anything to the killer of his parents, since he is a hunter. The brother and sister, being children, were unhappy with such words from the policeman, and at that moment he added that their parents were simply unlucky. He again remembered about the orange-haired bully who mocked him earlier, who talks about the fact that hunters can do whatever they want. And the boss, holding a glass of wine in his hands with a satisfied look, says that he took back his word, asking what the main character can do. We return to the present where we see Yabai thinking about Charles's words. At this time, the princess stands nearby and waits for his decision. It is clear that Yabai does not want to become a hunter because these bastards are very evil and did very bad things to his family, and Yu Bing said that he would be a good hunter. He understands perfectly well that there are also good hunters, but still he simply hates many of them and does not want to become one of them. The princess reminded him of his sister. He needs to become a hunter in order to save her, because this is the only way, although he is not happy about it. Misumu's words made him think even more. He understood that if he did not become a hunter, his sister could die, so he would have to make a difficult decision. We are again transported to Yebai's memories, where his sister is sitting watching TV. On the channel, they are going to give someone an award for the best newcomer. Shaolin calls Yabai to look, saying that they show the man who killed their parents and that he became a star in Diamond City. His brother goes to look at it. We see the same man holding the award. The presenter calls him an excellent hunter and asks the audience to express their warmest applause to him. The children look very unhappy. The sister even asks her brother to go to the city and take revenge on this killer for his bad deeds in the past. We return to the present time, where Yabai realized that if he became a hunter, he could take revenge on the killer, telling the princess that he had decided to become a hunter. The sister woke up with a normal body after her operation. Her brother comes up to her, apparently addressing her, although he wants to say what he did for her. She was surprised that her body had become normal. Her brother continued to reassure her, saying that he had found her an excellent doctor who could help her. They are interrupted by the princess, warning that people from Mount Fushun will look for them everywhere. They, in turn, listened to her and understood everything. She advises them to stay here for a while and have a good rest, holding in her hands a bag with some items, apparently for our patient. Xiaoling wants to say something about Yu Bing, and he shuts her mouth and says that this beauty is his classmate, and he should thank her for saving her. The sister thanked her savior, saying that Yabai often talks about her. The princess also heard about Xiaoling and offers her food because she is hungry. The cool schoolboy is already opening the door, planning to go to Mount Fushun and show everyone there who is boss, asking them to take care of his sister. The princess does not believe his words. Charles arrives, attracting attention by clapping, and asks everyone to stop. believing that he is the boss here and these kids should obey him, because otherwise he will force them to watch all the episodes of Skibidi Toilets. He makes it clear to everyone that he has been following Fuchinshan and its power amplifier business for a long time. They found the location of this enterprise and almost penetrated there. The doctor with a serious look hints to Ye Bai to go on a journey to this place and deal with him at the same time, taking revenge on the boss. Ye Bai is surprised that such a small character as Fuchinshan is worthy of Charles's attention and says that he is ready to destroy Mount Fuchinshan at his request alone. We learn from the princess that this power amplifier is associated with abilities, and after we receive it, we will need to keep it a strict secret. The main character asks the Chinese GPT chat if he can use a skill card called Attack Conversion that he received earlier. The system says that the skill card is a valuable consumable and can be used at any time, specifying whether he needs to use it right now. Ye Bai already knew what he was doing and asked the system to use the card right now because he needed the strength to penetrate the Mount Fuchin Enterprise by beating the bad guys. In the next frame, we see the location indicated by Charles and two rockers leaning against the wall like girls of easy virtue, lighting a cigarette. They just want someone to call them at home. They are being watched by Ye Bai, who arrived at this place, and he, well prepared, approaches these bandits intending to kick their ass thoroughly. He directly asks them if the strength amplifier from Mount Fuchin is produced here, and says that he needs anti-SX, which makes the guys surprised. They pressed him against the wall, and at this time one tells him that he wants to die, and the other lets him know that goods are not sold here. But Ye Bai did not come here to buy goods. At the beginning of the next chapter, Ye Bai gives a strong right hook to the green-haired one, causing the yellow-haired one to be shocked, thereby making it clear to the main character that he himself will take the goods. These cockroaches, seeing how they cannot cope with him, call the big goon for help, hoping that he can somehow protect these weaklings. This big guy is simply perplexed by how anyone dared to come straight to him, and is going to do something to prove that he does not tolerate such things. Ye Bai, noticing that the experience is going straight to him, asks the system to activate the attack transformation skill. Apparently the main character has a plan. The events take place inside a building where we only see a working air conditioner, dust, and a very gloomy atmosphere of this place. The guy was tied with an iron chain and he demands to give him anti-SX, otherwise they will have to pay for it. The thug made it clear that his boss is not here, and there is no point in shouting. He demands to let him go, otherwise Xiaoyang will experience all the strength and rage of the protagonist on himself, and will not be able to resist it. This giant really didn't like the words of the main character, and is simply ready to kill him. Apparently the tied Ye Bai will not have a good time now. He clenches his fist with all his strength, breaking the test tube that did nothing to him. He is sure that he will not see the character of the schoolboy, because he will kill him right now. The brown-haired man calls him helpless and provokes the thug to beat him. His face shows that he has thought through everything and knows what he is doing. The giant believes that an ordinary level 3 green bee is not worthy of being angry with him, and flexes his fists and is about to kick Ye Bai's ass. With all his might, he punches the schoolboy in the stomach, reminding him that he is a second-order Xiaoyang. It hurts the boy, but it was intended that way. The system lets you know that the attack transformation skill has worked, and the energy of that goon has transferred to Ye Bai, and will soon reach a critical point. The main character looks pleased. This blow was not enough for Ye Bai, and he begins to tease the jock, saying that he eats little and is too weak, adding that his grandmother is stronger than him. From these words, the big fool falls into a rage, and, already in a fighting stance, is ready to tear this schoolboy into small pieces that night. We see the result of Ye Bai's restlessness. This behemoth begins to beat him with everything he has, causing him various injuries and causing his face to bleed. The brute is dissatisfied with the fact that the boy is still alive, and gave him a kick of such force that he flew far back, even though he was tied with a metal chain. We see how after this blow the chain broke into small pieces and Ye Bai, freed, flies back, enduring all this pain, and the goon stopped and looked at it. The schoolboy lands on his back. Apparently the landing was not soft, and he continues to slide on the floor for some time. The system reports that enough energy has accumulated, and the owner has been promoted to the level of general exercise. New abilities have appeared to control flame and lightning. Liang Ye Bai is very glad that it was not in vain that he endured all this pain, because he received 2 abilities at once, despite the fact that the others receive 1 each. Xiaoyang steps on Ye Bai, wondering how he can laugh when he has so many broken ribs, and it looks like he must be in pain. He made it clear to the giant that he could and wanted to laugh, because he still needed to thank him for beating him, no matter how strange it sounded. For a moment, this mountain of muscles became scary, and he simply did not understand how he could behave after all these beatings and what he was thanking him for. And then suddenly Fuchinshan enters with his chain dogs, ordering these two to stop and disperse because now it's his turn to act. The boss tells the beaten Yabai that he can find what he is looking for, but only if he joins his ranks, giving him one last chance to do so. The boy spits out blood and, looking at him with a dark gaze, refuses the offer, realizing that he will get what he is looking for on his own. Fuchun-shan realized that if the main character did not want to join him, then he would be better off dead. The bodyguards had already surrounded him and were ready to attack. Raising his cigar, he orders his guard dogs to kill the main character, thinking that they can definitely cope with one schoolboy. But that was not the case. Yabai flies from his knee into one of the bodyguards, which immediately knocks him out. The other simply did not expect such a sharp blow, and understands that he will soon receive it too. The schoolboy easily copes with the crowd of security while calling Yu Bing to call the police to this place to arrest the bad guys. He continues his communication, fighting off these idiots, wanting the princess and the others to pay attention to their safety, because anything can happen. The bad guys lock Yabai in this warehouse, hoping to finish him off here, but of course he doesn't like it, because it will now be more difficult to leave there. He gets angry and realizes that the only way to get out of there is to continue fighting with the guys in black. Baring his teeth, he is preparing for this. At the beginning of the new chapter, Yabai realizes that this is the perfect moment to try out the new awakening power on the bad guys who are going to kill him. He is going to kill all the bandits, and when they saw what he was doing with his new powers, they got scared and already changed their minds about attacking him. But of course they didn't have time to escape anywhere, and experienced all the rage of the main character. A strong explosion thundered, causing the bandits to scatter screaming in different directions. Xiaoyang, being frightened and surprised, flies from the explosion straight to the feet of his boss. I no longer know what to do. The boss is dissatisfied with the weakness of his guard dogs. Fuchun-shan realized that he would have to take everything into his own hands, and entrusting this to his idiots was a waste of time. Tearing his jacket, he was ready to take the fight. Like the final boss from a video game, he stood with his foot on his subordinate and began to flex his fists. Looking straight into Yebai's soul, Xiaoyun can't do anything about it. The Chinese GPT chat warns that this boar is at the level of a third-class silver wolf hunter, being 20 times more powerful than Yabai, from which he may simply lose. Yabai is slightly confused and asks the system to remain positive and find some options for him because the door is closed and he has nowhere to run. Despite the 20-fold difference, he forces himself to accept this fight, realizing that it is either death or life. He must face it. Having charged clots of flame in his hands, he insulted this Rock Johnson and releases them all right at him, at which time the bad guy just stands there without moving. As you can see, this attack did not make any impression on him. He calmly withstood it without straining at all, saying that it was all very boring. Later, he decided to show that he also has the ability to use a sound bomb on Yabai, pushing him into the wall with force, causing a large dent to appear in it. The main character was in great pain from the blow, spitting out blood and realizing how strong the Silver Wolf of the 3rd level of strength is. But the schoolboy is in no way going to give up, because he has already come this way, and besides, it's all for the sake of his sister. He somehow got to his feet to continue the fight. He shows the boss that this is not the end yet, and sharply releases 3 fiery balls at him, but the boss doesn't care. It's like he eats them for breakfast every day, judging by his stamina. Fuchun-shan continued to stand, taking the blow, but of course he didn't even feel it and simply shook the remaining fire from his shoulder. The two of them stand opposite each other. Yabai looks confused. Fire is blazing all around, and the self-confident boss says that this is the end for the main character. This red-eyed guy starts doing something with his hands and calling the schoolboy an idiot. He's going to launch a powerful attack. Most likely Yabai will be hurt right now. Yabai, looking at Fuchun-shan, lets him know that he is ready to take this blow. The boss, of course, does not mind kicking this schoolboy's ass. After carrying out the attack, it is clear that garbage is flying around along with Yabai. He lands on the stone floor and, breaking through it, slides until he is stopped by the wall. The bloodied protagonist, lying in that place, realizes the difference between them and sees that there is not enough space in this room for him to resist. He slowly walks up to the hero, praising him for gaining such abilities in just a couple of days, rising from a green bee to a snow eagle. But taking the boy by the scruff of the neck makes him understand that he must die since he did not obey him, and Yabai simply hints to him that something unexpected will happen now. Red Eyes immediately lost the smile on his face, and in bewilderment he began to think what such a serious thing this loser had prepared for him. Yabai, having watched enough of various action films on TV, remembered that good always triumphs over evil in films, and prepared for this idiot a fusion of all his abilities, which would definitely cause him damage. It can be seen how he summons spheres of purple flame with lightning with his hands, which is a very powerful fusion, so Yabai already thinks that he will win. He had already released this powerful charge directly at Fuchinshan. He could no longer withstand this attack so easily, and even tried to block it with his own hands. You can see from his legs how he can hardly restrain himself so as not to fly several tens of meters back. He did not expect such a turn of events, which is why he began to insult Ye Bai. You can see fear and bewilderment on his face. This time he was hurt, and he can't just leave it, promising Ye Bai to finish him off once again. In the next chapter, we see everything from Ye Bai's point of view as he continues to attack Fuchinshan, and he tries to stay on his feet. The schoolboy, noticing that this is the only attack that works on the boss, continues to use it in an attempt to finish him off once and for all. He continues to press with his attacks, repeating the phrase "Purple Flame Thunder." While this works very effectively against the Red Eye, the irritated boss looks very tense, and he understands that things could end badly for him if he continues to endure his attacks. This fool in a white shirt tells the schoolboy that no matter how hard he tries, he only has one end today, and that is death. Fuchinshan is already running straight towards Ye Bai. While the boss was trying to grab the boy, suddenly there was an explosion that destroyed the closed door. Ye Bai and Fuchinshan's attention turned to this. It was the police who had previously been called by the main character who arrived. Armed people burst into the room and possibly saved Ye Bai's life. Charles and Miss Mu also arrived with them. The bespectacled man in a police uniform said that Mount Fushun had been arrested. He had nowhere to run because he was surrounded. Worried, Yubing turns to Ye Bai, asking if he is okay after all this brutal massacre that happened here, but he looks very sad. Ye Bai, as befits all cool heroes, smiled in response to this question and fell unconscious. Yubing immediately ran to his aid. All events are transferred to some room where Ye Bai, under the supervision of her classmate, lies and recovers from her injuries. Out of sleep, he notices the beautiful Yubing, who was just cooling his forehead with her rag. She noticed how he was waking up and was glad that everything was okay with him. This fool thinks that he is still in a dream, and when he saw the body of his classmate, he expressed his visual satisfaction directly out loud and smiling at the same time. The princess made him understand that this was not a dream and everything was real, which made him fall into a very awkward position in his head. He really regretted saying that. Waking up, he expresses gratitude to her for saving him, and she, throwing a rag into a bucket of water, says that it's time to get up for school because they might be late. She let him know that Mount Fushun had been arrested and his sister would soon recover, and together they thought about what Ye Bai would do next. Ye Bai is going to apply to the school to become a reserve fighter. Step by step, he will qualify as a hunter and fulfill his promise to Charles. Meanwhile, Miss Mu's adoptive father is in his laboratory, and he can be seen conducting some very important research. We see photographs related to Ye Bai's past life, how he beat Zheng Ke, knocked down a statue in front of the club, and at that moment Yubing comes up talking about Ye Bai's plans. The doctor understood everything, and saying that he would only grow faster in the future, asked to keep an eye on him, and his adopted daughter listened to him. He is very interested in Ye Bai, since he has never observed such people before. He is somehow unique in this regard. Looking at the photo of Ye Bai in his school uniform, the mustachioed doctor already believes that he is the one he has been looking for all this time. Further events take us to school days, when Ye Bai and Xiaoling walked around the schoolyard, and behind them walked the final boss of the KFS, who was late for the next speed burger eating competition. Together they noticed their friend Han, who as usual brought them breakfast. Ye Bai is happy about this, and his sister, considering that fool strange, asks him to ignore him. That guy addresses them by raising breakfast and shouting to the whole yard that it was prepared especially for them according to a special Korean recipe. He breaks down and approaches Xiaolin. She apparently refuses to take the food, and he asks not to be like that and reminds him of his entire promise not to let bad people near her. The schoolgirl still reluctantly decided to take the food offered to her, which made Khan happy, but she asked first to listen to what she had to say. The next chapter begins with Han and Xiaolin walking in an unknown direction, waving to Ye Bai as he looks after them. While Ye Bai is standing by the road eating food that Han apparently gave him, a gray car drives up to him and someone is about to get out. It turned out to be Mu Yubing, who wishes the hero good morning. He wishes her the same, continuing to stand with his back to her and trying to eat his food in a hurry, because he was afraid that she would take it from him. The assholes we already know come up to them, discussing how bad luck Ye Bai had that he got involved with Yubing. They consider her bad inside. Zhang Ke enters into a dialogue with Ye Bai, irritating him with his presence, saying that he has changed, and asking why he contacted Yubing and hinting that he wants to beat him. Yubing didn't like the fame of this bully, and she was about to answer him, but her classmate, like a real alpha male, asked her to calm down and said that he would figure it out himself. Yabe makes him understand that right now he is much stronger than him, and he will not be able to defeat him, and this self-confident fool believes that he lost last time because of his carelessness. The main character accepted the challenge, but a regular fight seems boring to him, and when he saw a dog defecating behind him, he decided to make a bet that the loser would eat shit. Jungkook unexpectedly attacks the main character, considering him too arrogant, because he is very confident in his victory and wants to punish him for it. Yabai easily catches the bully's fist just like at Yubing's birthday, looking straight into his soul with her cold gaze. It is already clear that Jungkook is on the verge of defeat. Time has stopped and the system contacts its owner, congratulating him on the opening of a certain exchange market, where he can exchange points for victory and energy for disposable props. He sees a power-up called Energy Conversion for 2,000 points and realizes that this is just in time. He wonders how many points he will get for defeating Zhang Ke. Time starts and Yabai gave a hard blow from the knee to the red-haired man, from which he flies away and sooner understands that he is weaker here. He just stops near a pile of poop and Yabai understands that this is a chance to humiliate this freak and prove once and for all that he is stronger than him. The main character took this loser by the back of his head, mercilessly dropped his face into a pile of poop, and began to smear him on the floor so that the offender could feel everything. The girls looking at this are simply crazy about Yabai's coolness. They saw an arrogant but such a beautiful sight and already want to go on a date with the main character. For the victory over Zhang Ke, the system awarded the student 9 points, which makes him unhappy because the new ability costs 2,000 points. After this fight, Yabai and Yubing leave this place together. Under the admiring glances of the crowd, Yabai must test himself in battle with stronger hunters. While the main character was walking and drinking a drink, Han walks behind him with a phone in his hands. Apparently he saw something and wants to ask a couple of questions. He saw a video of Yabai's fight with Zhang Ke to the surprised screams of the crowd, who was simply shocked that his friend had become so strong in such a short time. Han turns to the main character with the question of how he received such high strength, and so quickly, Yabai, while drinking a drink, is in no hurry to give him an answer. A guy with a short haircut asks to be accepted as a student because he can teach him a lot and then bad guys will stop bullying him in the future. Yabai made it clear to him that he could not teach him anything because he received his abilities suddenly and could not teach him to give him supernatural abilities. But he promised his sad friend a promise that no one would be able to offend them in the future because he would protect him and his sister from bullying. Disappointed, Han says that he does not need any protection, he just wants to learn how to fight, have different abilities in order to protect himself. You can see his memories where he and Yabai are beaten. He says that before both of them and the main character were beaten by bad guys, but now only him is beaten. They are noticed at this moment by two guys who think that Han is a follower of Yabai, and this makes these idiots laugh. Events move to the night where poor Han is once again beaten by bad guys, and he tries to call his friend Yabai for help. The bald bandit is making fun of the guy, saying if Yabai is supposed to be here, then why is Han crawling here on the ground like a dog? After these words, he gives a strong kick to the face of the lying guy in a blue t-shirt, saying that he must fight, otherwise everything will end here for him now. Fortunately for Hannah, someone came just in time to stop these bandits, but so far we cannot figure out who it is. In the next chapter, it turned out that it was Zhang Ke with his chained dogs, who with a cool look told the bald one to let the guy go, adding that he was training here until late. The fat man in the chain recognized his acquaintance in the orange-haired man and was perplexed that he wanted to protect this loser lying on the ground. It can be seen how Zhang Ke paid Liang for this, and this corrupt one could not help but refuse such an offer, and taking the money left the guy alone. The guy in the shirt recognized Han as Yebai's acquaintance and doesn't understand why Yabai didn't come here to save him. Han said that he had nothing to worry about. Taking advantage of the guy's grief, Zhang Ke sat down in front of him and called him to his side, saying that in this case no one would bully him. Han was interested. Yabai's friend, removing this fool's hand from his shoulder, says that he is weaker than Yabai and will not be able to protect him, and in general, let him wash the crap off his face first. The cunning guy came up trump card, knowing exactly what Han wants, what Yabai could not offer him, and says that he can help him become stronger. The beaten guy simply does not believe his words, clarifying what he said. Orange, taking something out of his pocket, reminds him that he can help him. Han, grabbing him by the shoulder, does not understand exactly how Zhang Ke will help him, realizing that if he becomes strong, he will be able to do whatever he wants. Red took a test tube from his pocket, apparently with a power amplifier, and asks him to drink the contents, which he looks at it greedily and cannot refuse. He also adds that it all depends on his courage, whether he can learn to fight, whether he will become stronger, or maybe even risk playing 2 matches in the League of Legends. Without letting him finish his speech, Han took away the test tube with the blue liquid and was about to drink every last drop, risking it because he didn't know what it was. He begins to swallow the liquid directly, surprising Jong-K with his desire, and he realized that he had already lured this guy to himself, thereby taking revenge on Ye-bai. After he has emptied the test tube, he begins to feel a little shaky. He feels his body becoming more powerful and his character much tougher. You can see how he expressed his huge muscles. His facial features have changed from childlike to more brutal, and he feels unstoppable. Jong-Ke grins behind him, because he can't wait to show Ye-Bai that he has lost his friend. Han continues to rejoice at his new strength. We see the three bad guys who previously beat Hannah. They walk along the dark alleys of the streets with important views, thinking that nothing can threaten them at the moment. In the next frame, we see that karma did not take long to arrive. Apparently, the pumped-up Han came to them and simply tore his offenders to pieces. We return to the main character with his sister, and they are walking around the schoolyard and are at a loss because they haven't seen Hannah for a long time. They notice him with Jong-K and in an embrace with a girl, from which they are simply in deep shock because he used to be afraid of Jong-K and simply hated him. Xiaolin begins to be jealous of her boyfriend for this girl. Because they were a couple before, she is very angry and is going to approach him. She attracts his attention by approaching him with the question of what he is doing in an embrace with another girl, because they are dating him while insulting him. And Ye-Bai at this moment is talking with Jong-K, realizing that he arranged all this. He wants to know what they did to him. And he stands arrogantly with his arms crossed. Han, becoming another chain dog of this redhead, moves the main character away from him, asking him to treat his boss with respect, otherwise he will be rude. Ye-Bai thinks that the redhead is bullying his friend again and already wants to help him, and the cunning Jong-K says that he will help him become stronger in the future. Han, hearing the red-haired man's words, understands that today he realized everything and wants nothing to do with Ye-Bai or his sister, and now he goes with Jang-K. Having cried, Xiaolin expresses her misunderstanding because she has become sharply indifferent to him, because only recently he confessed his feelings to her. With an evil smile, he says that he likes her, but she did not reciprocate his feelings. He ran after her for a very long time, and she did not even pay attention to him. The traitor teases her, starting to stroke his new girlfriend, calling her a treasure, and the purple-haired girl asks her not to call her that among a bunch of people. Later, he points his finger at Ye-Bai for making his empty promise to protect him, and Ye-Bai still doesn't understand how a friend can behave like that. He is angry because he was recently beaten by bad guys. He has already looked into the eyes of his death and hoped for help from Ye-Bai, but he did not come. The sister, in complete grief and with tears in her eyes, begins to run away from this place, calling Hannah a bastard. Ye-Bai noticed this and is about to follow her. He understands that this is all Jong-K's cunning plan, and he pretends that there is nothing to do with it. Standing contentedly with his hands in his pocket, Ye-Bai will not leave this so easily. Events are transferred to the house of the brother and sister, where Ye-Bai came to pick up Xiaolin and was about to talk to her about this problem. He knocks on the closed door on the other side of which his sister is sitting and crying. He tries to calm her down, saying that Han is not that kind of person, and this is all Jong-K's plan. Xiaolin begins to scream in hysterics that Han is a traitor without opening the door, and Ye-Bai has no choice but to stand and listen to it. He angrily continues to knock on the door calling her name, because he wants to talk to her and calm her down by discussing the further plan of action. Ye-Bai leaves the building and starts calling Yu Bing on the phone, asking if she is free today because he needs her help in resolving the issue with Han. The next chapter begins and we immediately see a car driving along a night road in which Ye-Bai and Yu Bing are sitting and Hannah is discussing with Jong-K. The main character tells all the important details to his classmate, saying that Han wanted to start studying with Ye-Bai, but he did not agree, and Jong-K used tricks on him. The princess immediately realized that the redhead had a supernatural potion, which he had given to Ye-Bai's friend. The main character realized that we were talking about a potion of strength. We learn that a certain organization, the Black Seven, is researching power potions. Fuchun Shan is connected with this organization, and Jong-K is in contact with these people. The main one, having learned about this organization, thought that the whole problem could be solved if he simply grabbed Fuchun Shan and Jong-K, but there was a larger network behind them. Realizing that Han is an ordinary person, he thinks what can happen to him from this potion. The princess made it clear that the strength will be increased for a short time, after which the body will be destroyed. Ye-Bai, realizing that everything will end badly, is going to find his friend as soon as possible and avoid unpleasant consequences. The princess, like a good friend, looking straight into his eyes, agrees to help the main character find Hannah and help him. He is very grateful to her for her help and, taking her hand, offers to separate and start looking for him. The princess agrees with his proposal. We see the muscle man Hana, who decides that he has the strongest power amplifier in his hands and bullies 3 guys in an alley, trying to take revenge on them for the past. The beaten losers lie on the ground in the shadow of Hana and wonder what he has prepared for them and watch as he begins to drink the contents of the test tube. After drinking, he calls them weaklings and is about to beat them, but they lie there crying and begging him for mercy, knowing that they can't do anything to him. The strong man, raising his big leg, is going to smear the poor guys on the asphalt, sending them to hell. It is clear from his empty black eyes that he has been waiting for this moment for a long time. Yabai arrives on time and calls the goon, distracting him from beating the guys and possibly saving their lives. Han notices the main character and realizes that he came just in time, because now he can show off his new powers to him. He shows his bazooka and says that he has become very strong, and now he does not need training because he can stand up for himself. And Yabai noticed a strength amplifier in his hands. Yabai tries to warn the big fool that this drink will simply kill him if he continues to drink. You can see how worried he is about his friend. He doesn't care because he considers himself omnipotent with this drink, and says that those who bully him should die if they are going to drink more. Yabai, of course, tries to take the drink away from him, reminding him that Xiaoling once almost died from this drink, but the big man managed to jump back. He immediately begins to drain the entire test tube of this drink. Considering himself the smartest, Yabai can only watch this, because he did not manage to take it away in time. You can see how he threw the empty test tube on the ground, saying that he is not like Xiaoling and, unlike her, he will only become stronger. He just wants to live without bullying. After drinking, Han began to feel a sharp surge of strength and, believing himself, challenged the main character to a fight, thinking that he would calmly defeat him. He swings his big fist at Yabai, trying to hit him, causing Yabai to be shocked by Hana's desire to fight him. Suddenly the goon, not having time to deliver his blow, begins to scream at the top of his voice. It is clear that something is wrong with him, and everything is not going according to his plan. Yabai sees Han losing strength and beginning to lose consciousness, and despite the fact that a couple of seconds ago he wanted to hit him, the main character became worried. The strong man fell to the ground exhausted, completely losing consciousness. The main character does not understand what happened to him and is about to rush to the rescue. At this moment, Xiaoling suddenly came and saw the lifeless Hana, and Yabai was surprised by the presence of his sister, but did not say anything. Having woken up slightly, Gramilla began to ask for forgiveness from his brother and sister. Realizing what a mistake he had made, Xiaoling worries about him and wonders what happened. Having calmed down, Han confesses his feelings to her, saying that he loves only her and that he wanted to become a better person. Xiaoling forgave him. Dying, Han turns to the main character, trying to say something. Yabai asks him to hold on, because they will take him to the doctor and he will cure him. The guy died while in the arms of his beloved. They both start screaming, saying that he can't die this way. It's clear how they don't want to lose him. When they realized that he had finally died, they made their last attempts to bring him to his senses. After which Xiaolin burst into tears, and Yabai was angry at those responsible for his death. He knelt down, pressing his fist into the asphalt, and then screamed so loudly in rage that he released a bunch of blue energy from himself. It's clear that he wants revenge. The beginning of the next chapter shows us the evil Yabai walking through a crowded area somewhere. Apparently he is going to kick someone's ass. On the way, he was flooded with memories of how he sat with his sister and Han, having fun together, eating at the table and taking pictures with a sincere smile. He approaches the table at which Zhang Ke was sitting with his servants, and was quietly spending time not suspecting anything. But that was not the case. He notices Yabai and fear appeared on his face. He knew that the main character had come to take revenge, and of course Yabai gave him a strong right hook from which he flew away. The lying Zhang Ke realized that the schoolboy was angry because of Hana's death, and already realizing that right now it would be difficult, he asked if he liked the gift from him. These words greatly infuriated Yabai. His eyes turned red, and the system notified that the anger scale had reached its peak, and the level had been increased to the master of the 3rd stage exercises. He rushes sharply at the weak Zhang Ke, intending to beat him to death after everything he has done. The redhead stands, realizing that resistance is useless. The main character throws the villain to the ground, driving him into the asphalt with screams, and fragments of stones that break from his blows are visible all around. Yabai continues to punish him for bad deeds. These actions could not help but attract the attention of the crowd, causing everyone to watch the process in surprise. From a series of strong blows, Zhang Ke's arm breaks, and later from another blow, blood gushed from his mouth. He still cannot do anything. A beautiful view from above shows how Yabai continues to beat the bad guy into the ground and cannot calm down, and he is already lying unconscious. Behind the bloody fist of the protagonist, there is a crowd of onlookers who are filming everything on camera. They are very surprised by the rage of the protagonist. Suddenly, Yubing came here, realizing that something was wrong, and making her way through the crowd, she asks Yabai to stop beating the helpless Zhang Ke. She ran up to him and, trying to pull the evil Yabai away from that idiot, asks him to stop because he will beat him to death, and the crowd continues to watch. The schoolboy pushed away his classmate because he doesn't care what happens. He just wants to finish off this bastard and thereby avenge Hannah. She is unhappy with this and tries to convey to him that by killing Zhang Ke, he will not be able to bring back Hannah's life, and therefore he better stop. Yabai, full of grief, turns around and once again makes it clear that he is still filled with hatred, and by killing this bastard, he will get rid of this feeling. The princess jumps on Yabai's back, saying that he is not that kind of person, and asks her to stop. He tells her not to worry about him and tells her to let him go. He is slowly starting to come to his senses. Calming down, Yubing continues to hold him, saying that he will not allow him to become a bloodthirsty person. She still holds him and helps him calm down. Sad Yabai does not want to become a bad person and wants to add something while thinking. Against the background of a drop of blood falling, Yabai reminds himself that he is not a bad person. He is not bloodthirsty or aggressive, and seems to have completely calmed down. But he began to cry and scream sharply, thinking about why they always continue to anger him with their bad deeds, grabbing Yubing's hand. Yabai continues to cry, wondering why they always force him to kill someone, and continues to scream while in the arms of the princess. The princess, having listened to him like a real psychologist, says that everything is fine. She is nearby and does not let him go, calming him down with her warm hugs. Events are transferred to a hospital where a man in a black jacket entered, and opening the door to one of the rooms is about to enter it. Inside, a broken Zhang Ke recognized this man as his boss, who said that the redhead had completed his task, and he already knew about Yebai's abilities. Having stood in a cool stance and removed his hood, we can see the face of this man. He promises to personally deal with Yabai in the future. In the next chapter, Yabai walks dissatisfied around the schoolyard during the daytime. The same school children walk around and go about their business. Noticing him, they immediately recognized him as a familiar face, having previously realized how strong he was and remembering how he beat, in their opinion, the strong Zhang Ke. A bunch of tough guys approach the main character, pushing aside ordinary school children. Apparently they need something from him, or they just want to try to kick his ass. Approaching, they clarify whether he beat Zhang Ke at night. Yabai confirmed this by asking what these thugs want, thinking that they came to take revenge. But unexpectedly for him, they all knelt down calling him boss, showing with all their appearance that they were ready to obey him. Yabai couldn't find the words. The redhead said that they, as Feikai's assistants, are ready to follow Yabai and carry out his instructions. Yabai is still at a loss. The main character sharply remembered how Han asked to teach him various techniques for self-defense so that he could not be bullied in the future, apparently regretting that he did not agree then. Yabai felt uneasy about this, and he refused these guys their offer, saying that he was not interested and went on his way. Another party of thugs came who also wanted to start serving Yabai, and they didn't like their competitors. Yabai was again surprised by this turn. He made it clear to them all that he did not need any campaign at the moment, and asked them to stop bothering him as he was about to leave. But one of the big guys was not happy with Yabai's answer, and grabbed his leg and began to beg him to accept them and say that they need their team, they need his leadership. The first campaign of strongmen, also on their knees, began to beg to be accepted, promising that their team would fight shoulder to shoulder with Yabai in the future. Meanwhile, a handsome principal arrived, who was in a bad mood because on the way here he dropped a whole bucket of a triple portion of KFS spicy wings and decided to take out his dissatisfaction on the school children. He reminds everyone that this is a school, not the underworld, and they should be in their classes. Yabai turns to him about to say something. At this moment, all the school children, having done him a favor, go to their lessons, and Yabai is left alone with him on the case. The fat man said not to be afraid of him, and after considering the complaints against him and Zhang Ke will not interfere, I suggest Yabai become a reserve officer. Tired Yabai made it clear to him that he wanted to think about it by taking the paper sheet and preparing to go on his way. The director says that he should think carefully, because he is very good, and having learned that he wants to become a hunter, he says that the school will react positively to this. In the school corridor, 3 schoolgirls see Yabai and, realizing how cool he is, they cannot decide who will approach him first because they are shy. The first to approach is a redhead named Lin Xiaoxian, handing him a gift and expressing her feelings to him, wanting to become his girlfriend. Yabai's face shows that he is tired of this. After that, all 3 girls jump on him and begin to express their feelings to him in unison, and each wants to become his girlfriend. which makes him a little confused. You can see how they are almost tearing him apart, wanting to start dating him. He is trying to say something, but he can't because they are pulling him by the lip. The pretty Yu Bing came and attracted the attention of all these school children and asked Ye Bai if he promised to read a book with her, letting the girls know that this stallion already belonged to her. Asking why he is here, the princess tries to snatch Ye Bai from the strong embrace of the schoolgirls, who in turn do not want to part with him because they love him. The girls have no choice but to watch as Ye Bai and Yu Bing leave the door. They are outraged that he chose her and not them. Yu Bing, having brought him to another place, lets go of his hand, after which brown-haired man embarrassedly thanks her for her help. The princess at that moment is about to ask him something. Sitting on the street, Yu Bing wants to know the condition of Ye Bai along with his sister. After everything that happened in the situation with Zhang Ke and Han, he looks upset. Events take us to the gym at a late time, where Ye Bai, in an attempt to distract himself from this whole situation, plays sports by running on a treadmill. Remembering the Black 7 organization and realizing that it was their fault that his friend died, he sets maximum speed on the track and begins to run hard. After training, he picks up the phone on the way home to check on his sister's health, asking if she's eaten anything and if she wants a late-night snack. Suddenly, while crossing the road, he hears a huge truck coming towards him, blinding him with its bright headlights and apparently not even going to stop. The truck hits eBay at full speed, causing him to fly far away and feel severe pain. It is clear that the driver did this on purpose in an attempt to harm him. The next chapter begins and we see how Ye Bai lost consciousness from being hit by a truck and someone kidnapped him, bringing him to some place with a bag on his head, tying him with iron chains. After the bag is removed from the main character's head, he begins to slowly come to his senses and begins to realize that something is wrong here, despite the silhouette of a person looming in front of him. Now we can say without a doubt that this is the same person who visited Zhang Ke in the hospital. His name is Shun Fangwei, and he is from the Black 7 organization. He asks Ye Bai if he knows why he is here. The attached schoolboy realized that this bad guy is from this very organization, and he is very angry about this. At the same time, he watches Shun Fangwei reaching for some object. It turned out that he was reaching for a metal pipe, and picking it up, he said that he liked Ye Bai's ingenuity. But this is not a reason to spare him. And after these words, he hit him in the stomach with all his might, causing him to start spitting blood. The bad guy, quite pleased with this armature, begins to tell Ye Bai that he shouldn't have provoked his people, and now Ye Bai will pay for his actions. The boy didn't like his words, and he says people from his organization were the first to start the provocation, namely Zhang Ke and Fuchen Shan. Looking at the bad guy with a crazy look, he promised to kill them all. Zhun Fangwei cannot take seriously the words of the guy who is hanging over the pit with molten metal and throwing a metal stick to the ground. He says that the Black 7 do not have to kill them all. Taking in his hands the remote control that controls the mechanism holding Ye Bai, he tries to intimidate him and offers to join his organization, calling the main character a talented person and promising that they will stop persecuting him in the future. But unexpectedly for this fool, Ye Bai, having accumulated drool mixed with blood in his mouth, spat it all right on his face, expressing his disrespect. The bad guy clearly didn't like it. Shun Fangwei, wiping Ye Bai's drool from his face, told him that he should not make a toast or he would miss the punishment, looking at him with evil eyes and planning to do something. Ye Bai, like a real tough guy, says that if they want him to join their organization, then let their boss come and kneel with his head down, asking him to join them. The bad guy clearly didn't like either the actions or the words of the main character, and swung his hand and hit him hard, causing Ye Bai to start swinging in different directions, like on a swing as a child. Apparently the Black 7 organization is eager to get such a strong warrior into its ranks, and the guy in the jacket grabs Ye Bai by the neck and says that they can satisfy all his desires, trying to lure him with this. But the main character doesn't need any of this. He has only one goal: to avenge the death of his friend. Hannah, having killed all these bad guys, the bandit looks unhappy. Shun Fangwei, continuing to strangle Ye Bai, says that he should not get involved with his organization, and he will not survive in a battle with them. But Ye Bai is not an ordinary guy, and says that they will also have a hard time with him. Already having difficulty realizing that they will not be able to lure the main character to their side, Shun Fangwei is going to end his life, since he considers him already useless. He orders his chain dogs to press the very button that will remove the chains holding Ye Bai, causing him to fall straight into a pool of hot iron. Apparently they are sure that this will kill him. It is clear that they were not bluffing and press the button. Ye Bai, in fear, begins to fly straight into this hot puddle, thinking that this is the end, and Shun Fangwei, turning away from him, wishes him a speedy death. After Ye Bai fell into this puddle, he begins to smile slightly, confident in his victory, because he thought that Yebai had already been fried there to a golden crust and would definitely not return. We see how the hot metal begins to boil strangely, and it feels like someone is trying to emerge, and it turns out to be Yebai, who simply emerged from this cauldron, scattering drops of hot metal throughout the area. Hearing Xun Fangwei's cry, already confident of his death, he turns around and watches in shock as the main character stands in front of him alive and well without a single burn. Yebai looks at him contentedly, saying that unexpectedly for a bad guy, he remained alive, which is why the guy from the organization has already begun to fear for his life and cannot find the words to answer. We are shown again the moment when Yebai was still hanging over this hot metal, and we see how even then, from Xun Fangwei's conversation, he realized that he wanted to fry him in this puddle. He thinks about how he can be saved, and understands that the system has lowered his level from 3 levels to 1, and tells her to use the converted energy to exchange skills at the energy conversion center. The bot says that Yebai is just crazy if he wants to convert the energy of the furnace into the energy of his body. Since the temperature of the furnace is 1500 degrees and he cannot stand it, the system is trying to offer other solutions. Yebai, having completely gone off the rails, continuing to hang over the stove, tells the system that he simply has no other choice, so let him choose what he said. In the next frame, Yebai is already waist-deep in hot metal, and the Chinese GPT chat continues to warn him that if he cannot stand it, his consciousness will collapse, and he will simply be fried to a crisp. The main character abruptly orders the system to activate the energy conversion skill, since he almost fell into this furnace. It can be seen how the system obeyed him, and after activating this skill, Yebai begins to absorb the energy of the furnace, converting it into the energy of his body. From this process, he screams, and his eyes turn red. In the next chapter, you can see how Yebai, after activating his skill while in the furnace, begins to absorb its energy. It is very difficult for him, but he endures, which makes the bad guys simply at a loss. Yebai is on the verge of death. Because absorbing the energy of the furnace while in it is not an easy task, he is on the verge of losing consciousness, but he cannot switch off because he will die. After a couple of moments, Yebai can relax because the hot metal around him has completely frozen, as it has sucked out his energy, from which the system begins to calculate the amount of energy. The main character confidently stands in front of a group of bandits, and at this moment the system congratulates him on raising the level to the 6th stage of the exercise master, and this means that he has become stronger. Yebai takes his fighting stance, and at this time Xun Fangwei is already beginning to regret that he brought him here, because he understands that he is still far from being at the same level as Yebai. But the bad guy pretends that everything is under control and he can cope with him, making it clear that he doesn't care about Yebai's tricks, and in his eyes he is simply nothing. Yebai, of course, as the strongest guy, accepts his challenge and, raising his fist, is going to fight him one-on-one in mortal combat, like a real man-to-man. Xun Fangwei accelerates strongly towards Yebai, which made even him very surprised because they definitely won't be able to keep up with him. Apparently he attacked Yebai and is going to deal a crushing blow. Yebai, barely having time to notice him, understands how fast the guy in the jacket is, how his fist is almost in the face of the main character. He, of course, does not yet know what to do with such an opponent. He didn't have time to do anything before he received a strong blow to the face, from which he began to fly back. But the guy from the organization is not going to let him go so easily, and again accelerates and runs right after him. Having caught up with him, he delivers another crushing blow, causing Yebai to fly into the stone wall with great acceleration, causing a large dent to appear in it. Xun Fangwei is already beginning to think that he is stronger. The wounded Yebai, whose nose is bleeding, being in shock after this blow, realizes that he cannot keep up with this guy because he is too fast for him. Xun Fangwei thinks that the main character was not enough, and he wants to make fun of him further by showing the others how cool he is, and pushes Yebai out by breaking through the wall and throwing him out into the street. The wounded and pain main character, standing on all fours, is once again convinced that this hunter is too fast and needs to urgently come up with something, otherwise he will kill him. And then he realized that the speed with which he was training at the 6th stage was not vegetarian, while an angry hunter was running towards him, about to deliver another powerful blow. Unexpectedly, Yebai, having gathered himself, delivers a strong blow in response to his offender, who was running at him at high speed, causing blood to pour out of his mouth, and apparently, he is very surprised. This loser with a rumpled face thinks that it was impossible for Yebai and no longer knows what to do. And the main character, in turn, teases him by saying that the impossible is possible. Yebai delivers a series of blows, one of which lands directly on the bad guy's larynx, making it difficult for him to breathe. Xun Fangwei is no longer able to do anything and just stands there taking the blows. The schoolboy gave him one powerful right hook, from which the bad guy flew several meters and, after a hard landing, still slid some distance along the asphalt. The brown-haired man decides to jump right on the body of the guy from the Black Seven, just like Tarzan, to finally finish him off. The powerless Xun Fangwei just looks at the flying Ye Bai. Ye Bai lands his knee directly on the bad guy's stomach, causing severe damage, breaking a couple of his ribs and causing severe bleeding. The impact was so strong that even the asphalt broke. It is clear that he won a well-deserved victory over the bad guy in this battle. Behind Ye Bai, he continues to lie unconscious and with his back to his mouth, and Ye Bai himself simply exhales. This fight was filmed by local workers. They praised this epic fight, calling them both hunters. Ye Bai doesn't like it all, but he didn't say anything. He begins to leave this place, thinking that if he dealt with one bad guy from the Black Seven, then this means that he got involved with the whole organization, and he needs to be more careful in his actions. A couple of moments later, he happily returns to his home to his sister, and opening the front door makes it clear to Xiaolin that he has returned, and at the same time bought her a night snack. But unexpectedly for him, she meets him with tears in her eyes. Since she saw a video of his battle with Xun Fenwei, and realizing that Ye Bai has become much stronger in battle, she thinks that he wants to become a hunter. The next chapter begins in the same way at the brother and sister's house. Ye Bai, trying to dodge answering Xiaolin's question, puts food on the table and offers to eat first. Dissatisfied with the actions of her brother Xiaolin, making it clear that she is serious, throws out all the food from the table and reminds him that their parents died at the hands of hunters. After this reminder, Ye Bai begins to get slightly angry, remembering the killer, and tells his sister that he cannot forget that incident and is going to become a hunter to take revenge on bad people. The sister, continuing to cry, tells him that with this revenge he will not bring back the lives of their parents and Hannah. She is so worried about him, and says that she does not want to see him dead on the street one day. Taking a serious stance, the main character tells Xiaoling that he will not let anyone bully them in the future, trying to calm her down. The sister, unable to bear it anymore, runs away to her room, saying that it is better to endure bullying than to live with the risk of dying at any moment, mentioning Hannah and the fact that he even received abilities and still left this world. She slammed the door of her room hard, and Ye Bai, who tried to come after her, does not have time, and this loser is left to stand outside the door and listen to his sister cry, which he is not happy about. The events move to school, where the sad main character walks along the corridor and thinks about how negatively his sister reacted to the fact that he is going to become a hunter, and he also wants to return home as soon as possible in order to play a match in Fortnite. Closing his eyes, he thinks that his sister does not understand the true reason why he is going to become a hunter. He is thinking about how he can convey to Xiaolin that he is going to become a hunter in order to protect himself and her. Suddenly, the flow of his thoughts is interrupted by women's screams from the corridor in which he is. Ye Bai is not going to leave it just like that, and like a real hero, he is going to follow these sounds in order to help those in need. Arriving at the sounds, he notices his pink-haired classmate, who is sitting on the floor and whining about something, covering her face with her hands and feeling as if she is not going to look at the main character. Seeing that she is not even going to calm down, he asks her in a serious tone what happened, and waits for an explanation of the situation, because only then can he try to help. Suddenly, she rushes at him with a pitiful face and, grabbing his hand, asks him to save her. He, in turn, asks her first to calm down, because there is no one else nearby. This girl suddenly changes from absolutely innocent and in need of help into a cunning bastard who, clasping Ye Bai's hand, pulls her to her chest. Ye Bai is embarrassed by this act. Suddenly, this fool starts yelling at the whole school that he is harassing her and she needs help. Her behavior angered Ye Bai because he was just trying to help her, but now he cannot understand what she is doing. It turned out that this was all set up by Zhang Ke. He filmed this moment on his phone camera and is going to post it on the internet and thereby expose Ye Bai as a pervert. This idiot with a broken arm apparently didn't have enough last time, and he's still running into trouble, saying after filming this that he will be punished for allegedly harassing him and people won't look at him the same way before. Ye Bai has already managed to understand that this is all Zhang Ke's dirty tricks, and at this time his classmate, as an actor without an Oscar, goes her way with a sly smile. He demands to give him the phone while Zhang Ke's guard dogs are trying to hold him back. He learns from the redhead that they are already witnesses to this dirty deed, and the video was uploaded to the network. This made Ye Bai very angry, and he is interested in how Zhang Ke, after all those humiliations and beatings from Ye Bai, still continues to behave as if nothing happened, considering himself immortal. This self-confident idiot believes that the Black Seven organization is very strong, and that Ye Bai is underestimating it, saying that Ye Bai can come to Yin, and if he does not destroy it, the student will never give up. The main character, exhaling loudly, realizes that as long as the Black Seven exists, he will not be able to live in peace and tranquility even for one day, and understands that he needs to take some measures. He releases his power, causing a large explosion that slightly blinded the bad guys. Yebai screamed loudly, realizing that he would have to destroy the Black Seven if he wanted to live a quiet life in the future. Yebai decides to begin the destruction of this organization with the extermination of Zhang Ke, and, having accelerated, he raised his fist, intending to deliver a powerful blow directly to his face, from which Zhang Ke was already frightened. But fortunately for the redhead, the teacher arrives on time and tells Yebai to stop, and he, despite his strong desire to finish off his enemy, listens to her. The schoolchildren are already separating them, asking Yebai not to be so impulsive. Zhang Ke, feeling safe, decides to tease Yebai by showing him his tongue. This irritates the main character. In the next frame, the blue-haired man ran to complain to his teacher that Yebai allegedly harassed a classmate and also fought with other schoolchildren. Yebai does not like this and calls him shameless, because it is clear that Zhang Ke set up this scene with them. The teacher begins to scold Yebai, saying that he constantly gets into some kind of problems, takes part in various fights, and allegedly harasses his classmate, warning that he may be expelled for these actions. The satisfied chain dog Zhang Ke calls Yebai rat droppings and says that he ruined the whole mess, adding that people like Yebai who create some kind of problems every day should be immediately expelled from school. Of course, this upstart pissed off Yebai, and the main character, having conceived something, looks at him, asking whether he is creating problems. It is clear that the blue-haired one will now be very unwell. He comes up to this weakling and grabs him by the scruff of the neck with both hands, intending to do something. But the blue-haired guy just can't understand what this schoolboy is going to do to him now. The main character throws the helpless blue-haired man out of a closed window, breaking it. The enraged Yebai says with sarcasm that he has problems today, and that fool simply flies from the window, shouting to the whole yard. The next chapter begins with Yebai coming to Zhang Ke, scaring away his subordinates and saying that he will kill those who stand in his way. It is clear how the red-haired man already understands what will happen now. The evil main character grabs the tough guy by the scruff of the neck and says that he must die today. And the red-haired one does not take the schoolboy's words seriously, thinking that he is just bluffing to scare him. Then suddenly Yebai's hand lit up with fire. His eyes turned red, and he said that a good person can always punish a scumbag like Zhang Ke. He is already going to finish him off. And then suddenly the teacher comes with the attendants, who orders them to quickly stop Yebai. They shout at him to stop and finally learn the list of school rules. But this time, unlike the past, they were unable to stop Yebai. Because he was very serious, and so that they would not interfere with him, he simply pushed them a few meters away with an ordinary wave of his hand. The main character closes the door behind him, letting Zhang Ke know that they are the only ones in this room and no one can help him. Then the red-haired man already realized that the schoolboy was not bluffing at all. Yebai repeats his favorite phrase for Zhang Ke, saying that he must die today, from which the idiot falls into complete horror and cannot find the right words to somehow answer him. It can be seen that a lot of people came to this place. Yebai's actions could not help but attract the attention of the princess, and she came running and simply looked in shock at one of the attendants flying out of the window. She, looking at how Yebai is kicking Zhang Ke's ass, tries to attract his attention and tries to make him stop, because if she only strikes him one more time, she will immediately die. Yubing almost ran up to Yebai, intending to push him away from the redhead, but he pushed the princess away with a wave of his hand, because he had not finished his job yet since Zhang Ke was still alive. He continues to beat Zhang Ke, continuing to repeat that he wishes him death. This mad schoolboy, because of his rage, no longer hears Miss Mu, who is trying to explain to him that he cannot kill people yet. Suddenly, Mu Yubing begins to feel an unusual feeling in the chest area, which makes her feel uncomfortable, as if she knows what could happen now. Her second personality, or her fighting personality, contacts her. She asks Yubing to come out, promising to help her stop Yebai. The princess refuses this offer. The personality tells her that she has no choice. The princess is about to agree. Mu Yubing reluctantly agrees to release her fighting personality, and after this the transformation begins. In the process, she asks Yebai for forgiveness, because she must stop him. It can be seen how she begins to transform into another herself. The system notifies that her fighting side has already been released. With such powers, she will definitely be able to stop the enraged Yebai from beating Zhang Ke. Already the new combatant, Yubing, calling Yebai a sweet, handsome boy, grabs his hand at the moment when he is about to strike another blow on Zhang Ke, and, surprisingly, she was able to stop him. She began to look directly at Yebai and continued to hold his hand, preventing him from continuing the beating, directly telling him to calm down. Evil Yebai did not like this trick. His hand flared up even more and he waved it so hard that the combat version of his classmate flew off a couple of meters. He is about to deliver his strong blow to her and says that she should not dare to stop him. Yubing has everything under control. She is confident that she can handle him. At this moment, with a calm face, she grabbed Yebai's head as he was running towards her and whispered in his ear that this would not work, which made the angry schoolboy simply shocked. After these calm words, the combat version of Yubing simply takes and at full speed breaks through the wall of the building with Yebai, flying out into the street with him and repeating to him to calm down, thereby surprising the crowd of schoolchildren. Having placed the main character on his shoulder blades, she begins to hit him in the face with her fist, but not in order to harm him, but so that he simply comes to his senses. While she continues to repeat the word calm down, it seems that it even works. Local boars filming everything on their phones are surprised by Yubing's strength, because before that they considered Yebai the strongest. They wondered how many amazing people study at this school. At the beginning of the next chapter, we see how Yubing's actions angered Yebai even more. He, all blazing with fire, shouts at her so that she should not stop him under any circumstances. He is about to hit the ground hard and shouts that he must kill Zhang Ke. Meanwhile, Yubing stands behind her and thinks what can be done at the moment with Yebai to calm him down. She thought of using a special spell that shoots ice shards towards Yebai. While she continues to ask him to calm down, it seems that Yubing wants to freeze him. But the flame that bursts out of Yebai from his rage is simply too hot, and because of this, all the fragments quickly melted away. The princess again takes him by the head and calls him a dear boy, after which their faces begin to slowly come closer, and it is clear that now there will be a first kiss. You can see how their lips are about to touch, and Yubing, asking for forgiveness, kisses Yebai, from which he experiences mixed emotions and calms down, forgetting that a couple of minutes ago he tried to kill Zhang Ke. While they are kissing, an ice cover begins to spread in different directions, which is going to fill everything around and freeze the main character with his classmate. After some time, a whole huge ice cube about 15 meters high was formed from this ice cover, in which Yubing continues to kiss Yebai until he finally calms down. A crowd of schoolchildren come up to this cube and touch it in surprise, not understanding what is happening at all and how a large cube could form here. A couple of moments later, a flying transport arrives at this place and is about to land right in front of a large piece of ice. Having landed, Charles comes out with his special squad and he orders them to break the piece of ice. One of the squad members takes out a large flamethrower and, having checked its functionality, is about to start melting the ice, breaking through it into the very center to Yebai with his classmate, while the rest of the squad members, along with Charles, are waiting for him. A crowd of schoolchildren, recognizing Charles in this brigade, immediately begins to admire him and are surprised that they were even in shock. They are already thinking who has such behind-the-scenes power, Yebai or Yubing. While they were admiring their idol, during this time a guy in a suit and with a flamethrower managed to burn his way to Yebai with Miss Mu, saying that he had already taken care of everything, and after that, the whole squad began to walk towards the center of the cube. The boars apparently saw something unexpected inside this cube, from which they are in complete shock and look surprised, from which they simply cannot find words to describe their emotions. Events are transferred to the building in which Xianglin was treated. Inside the building there are Dr. Charles and the protagonist's sister, and they are about to enter the ward in which Yebai apparently lies. After they entered it, the sister, who came to visit her brother, seeing his condition, decides to quickly run up to him and find out what happened. Xiaolin approached him and, as usual, starting to cry, she began to say that she warned him that abilities were evil and they would harm them, and blamed him for not listening to her. Charles took Yebai's side and tells the girl that she does not fully understand her brother, why he is doing all this, why he is becoming stronger, and Xiaolin decides to clarify with the doctor what he means. The doctor begins to talk about Yebai's story, and we are shown fragments from his past life. He says that Yebai was forced to take this road because he simply had no other choice. We see how the brother and sister mourn the corpse of Hannah, and in the background the doctor says that Yebai knew that he had no choice but to resist the bad people and his offenders. We are shown a recent fragment from school, where he was framed for harassment by Zhang Ke and his campaign, and Charles says that until a person becomes strong, he will continue to endure bullying from the strong day after day. They return us to the hospital and we see our crybaby again, to which Charles explained that we are becoming stronger to protect ourselves and our loved ones, which made Xiaolin burst into tears even more and began to ask for forgiveness from Yebai for blaming him for being bad, even though he suffered so many insults. And then Yebai woke up and began to gently knock on his sister's head, encouraging her and saying that he didn't blame her for anything because she could simply understand her brother. Xiaolin slowly began to calm down. Realizing that he woke up, She was very happy about this because a couple of seconds ago she thought that he was in a terrible state and might not wake up at all, but he didn't answer anything from being asleep. Having finally woken up, Yebai thanks the doctor for saving him and at the same time wonders where Yu Bing went, because she was with him all this time before he lost consciousness. By the doctor's face, by the way he is silent, and how he looks straight into the soul of the main character, you can understand that something is wrong here, and Yebai urgently needs to find her to find out what happened. Already the new chapter greets us with sad shots. Yu Bing lies on a bed unconscious, being connected to a life support machine. Yebai thinks, why is all this serious? The main character asks Charles why Yu Bing also has superpowers, and asks why she has them better than him. Whether she is also a hunter, the gloomy Charles is about to give his answer. Placing his palm on the glass behind which his adopted daughter lies, the doctor replies that the Black Seven are not the only organization that possesses people with supernatural abilities. We are shown Yu Bing, and against her background, the professor talks about how Yu Bing was kidnapped as a child to conduct various experiments on her, and a supernatural gene was forcibly introduced into her body. She was eventually rescued, but suffered from the problem of losing control of her new abilities. If she lost control of her powers, she would lose a lot of energy, as well as the weight of her body. A doctor once used a gene lock to suppress the abilities in her body, but in order to stop the fool Yebai, she had to open this gene lock and release all her powers. The main character understands what a fool he was, and after listening to the doctor, standing with difficulty on his feet and leaning against the wall, he thanks Yu Bing for what he did earlier for his sake. Meanwhile, Yebai received a call from the school and was told that Yebai was creating huge problems for the school and hurting his classmates. The school decided to disqualify him from the reserve fighters, which made Yebai a little shocked. From what he heard, he became sad and broke his phone on the floor. Crouching slightly and holding his head with both hands, he begins to call himself trash who cannot do anything in this life. He cannot forgive himself for hurting Yu Bing and wants to ask her forgiveness, realizing what a difficult decision she made to save his life, almost sacrificing her own. Yebai tries to ask Charles if there are other methods of becoming a hunter, other than going through school. Upon hearing this question, the doctor looks at him, pleased. The main character, still unable to find the strength to forgive himself because of Yu Bing, asks the professor if he can somehow help her. It is clear from him that he is serious about helping. Yebai tells Charles that it was difficult to go through such a long and difficult path, and it would be very wrong to just give up right now, and he also promises that he will not accept such a fate. Dr. Charles has heard enough, and being pleased with this guy, begins to praise him, saying that he was not mistaken about him, and Yebai looks at him in misunderstanding, not realizing what he means. The doctor, adjusting his glasses, makes it clear to Yebai that there are other ways to become a hunter, with the exception of going through school, which makes Yebai happy. Surprised and joyful, Yebai simply does not believe the doctor's words and wants to find out as soon as possible what these methods of becoming a hunter are. The doctor, taking his patient by the back, accompanies him to one room into which he asks Yebai to go with him. Yebai looks at the entrance to the room in bewilderment and does not know what will happen now. He sees a huge board on which there are photographs from the past of his life, how he sat in a bar, fought with bad guys, played Valorant until late, and asks the scientist whether it is really him. The doctor admits to him that Yebai is an ideal object for study, which he has been looking for so long. Its development potential, development speed, explosive power, it's all just great for studying, and he is very interested in doing it. Yebai, looking at one of the photographs in which he is furious, dreams of seeing himself one day as the highest form of a supernatural being and becoming the strongest warrior. Dr. Charles asks for Yebai's support in studying her abilities. He is confident that he can use the results of these studies to cure Yu Bing and remove the pain that her abilities cause her. He strongly expresses his gratitude to Charles and says that he and Yu Bing have helped him many times, and now it's time for him to repay them in kind. If only they ask him about it. This answer suits the doctor. The satisfied adoptive father Yu Bing says that he will not let Yebai help him in vain and offers a reward, a letter of recommendation. He, as the chief scientist in Shenmue City, has sufficient privileges to recommend him to become a hunter. The joyful protagonist takes this very letter in his hands and looks at it for a long time. Not believing his eyes and ears, he thinks that he can finally become a strong hunter. Charles reminds that, however, not everyone can get a recommendation from him, and the main character has to prove that he is worthy of the title of hunter. Yebai wondered how he could do this. Events are transferred at night to the already familiar street of bars, where Yebai changed his clothes again so as not to attract attention and blend in with the crowd of others. He sees the entrance to the place where food is needed, as well as two guards. With a serious look, in order to seem like a cool and serious bandit, he hands out a certain ticket to these two bouncers. They begin to carefully examine him. After review, they understand that everything is fine with this pass, and looking at Ye Bai, they tell him that he can go inside this building. Going in, the main character sees a huge descent down the steps and says that this is an underground arena, which is the most cruel and dark corner of the city of Shenmue, and is about to go down there. Ye Bai, taking a place in the stands among the loudly screaming spectators, watches the fight of two idiots who are also watched by all the other spectators. He also adds that this place is very well suited for various proceedings. At the beginning of the next chapter, we are shown a fight between a man and a woman, and in the background, Charles speaks to Ye Bai, explaining the rules of this place and how everything works here, namely two duelists in a cage, a fight to the death with unlimited time. At the moment when the guy gives a strong kick, causing it to fly several meters away, Charles says that this is a very cruel place and the words cruelty, ardor, bloodiness are synonymous here. It can be seen how the parent defeated the girl and she is already lying lifeless. The doctor tells Ye Bai that the weak are knocked out right away and the strong move on. The doctor explained to the main character that he needed to survive until the final in this underground arena in order to receive his coveted recommendation. Ye Bai listened to it all emotionlessly. He later asks the system to analyze the strength of his future opponents in order to better know what he will later face in a locked cage in a fight to the death. The Chinese GPT chat begins to analyze the goons one after another, saying that the underground arena is a paradise for silver wolves. All duelist ranks are silver wolves, and the current level of the main boss corresponds to the second level of Shuiying, and the chance of surviving to the final is only 0.5%. Seeing that the chance of reaching the final is only 0.5%, he realized that he may not reach it at all and says that if he dies here, it will be considered just a waste of time. Still, he decides to register for the duel by approaching two beautiful girls at the reception and asking how he can do this. They say that everything is simple and he just needs to scan the QR code to register the appropriate information. At the moment of trying to register, two thugs approached Ye Bai from behind, who immediately drew attention to the newcomer in these competitions. The guy in the black t-shirt was slightly scared that the main character did not come here to die at all, because he looks like Shuang of the Second Order. More and more people are paying attention to the newcomer, but some already immediately recognize him as good old Ye Bai, who, as he said on the news, staged a huge pogrom on campus and really wanted to defeat the teacher. The number of people paying attention to Ye Bai has increased. They are convinced that it is actually Ye Bai, and some think that he, having reached the second stage, Shuang believes that he will beat everyone here, but in the end he will unexpectedly die. Some giant approaches him, who is 4 times larger than the main character himself. He comes up to clarify whether Ye Bai is standing in front of him or not. His name is Loa Tzu. He is just waiting for the moment to enter the ring with Ye Bai to send him home. A fat woman comes up from behind and lets you know what's in the game and asks you not to get to know her, saying that she likes to torture her victims first and then kill. The crowd rejoices and everyone repeats the same thing, saying that first of all they want to see the torture of the main character and then to finally finish with him. Ye Bai, standing surrounded by a crowd of duelists and ordinary spectators, understand that he has a bad reputation. Everyone recognizes him and wishes him a speedy death. Ye Bai understands that it will not be easy for him to reach the final, but he also understands that he simply has no choice. With his fights, he will help Professor Charles in studying superpowers, the results of which will help cure Yu Bing. Events are transferred to the daytime in the Charles building, where Ye Bai arrived already in his normal clothes. He came to let the professor know that he had registered. Charles understood everything and introduces him to his assistant named Julie. He says that she will follow in order to find out the physical condition of the main character. The doctor leaves the assistant alone with Ye Bai and leaves. The assistant introduces himself to Ye Bai, saying that her name is Julie and asks him to take care of her. Ye Bai, as a cultured person, greets her back and says his name. While already starting to drool over her, she asks him to follow her to check something. She asks him to take off his outer clothes and stand on the scales standing in this room. Various dirty thoughts immediately flooded into the main character, and he already doubted whether he should undress. After thinking, the schoolboy decides to start undressing, but at that moment he sees how he also begins to undress. He is in complete bewilderment and in shock from her, not understanding what she is going to do next. She explained to him that she just likes to dress cool while working, and asks him to forgive her. Ye Bai exhales with relief, realizing that everything is fine and nothing like that will happen. She brings a certain device with Ye Bai's forearm. He becomes interested in what it is, and the assistant just wanted to explain what it is and what it is for. It's called a sensor chip, and with the help of it, she can check the energy level in Yebai's body at any time. Julie begins to check the main character's body. First, she uses a measuring tape to check the width of Yebai's waist, and then uses a scale to find out his body weight. Having studied all the indicators, Julie tells Yebai that the percentage of fat in his body is quite standard, from which Yebai displeasedly agrees with her, previously thinking that he has a beautiful dried body. After studying Yebai's various indicators, he was allowed to get dressed, and while he was getting dressed, she asked him if it was true that his abilities increase from eating a lot of food. He confirmed this. After all the processes, Julie tells the main character that she will help him create more effective recipes and fitness plans to accelerate his superpowers. He is glad that he can make this process faster and thanks her. Later, like a true professional in her field, she tells Yebai with an important look and a folder in her hands that she doesn't deserve any thanks because it's just her job.